Welcome everyone to the first webinar for the month of April on sustainable design. Today's session is called Responding to the Demand for Green Living Without Sacrificing Luxury. We have two presenters today, Christine Tingen, who's the showroom manager for Ferguson in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. And we also have Kelsey Bergen. She is the Director of Sustainability with Ferguson from the Newport News, Virginia area. And I just wanted to also give a shout out to Gebrit for their generous sponsorship for today's webinar and all of our webinars for the month of April. So I want to thank all of you for being with us. And ladies, we are ready to get started. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Good morning. Well, it's afternoon here. I am on the East Coast. I am Christine Tingen from Ferguson. I am the area showroom manager in North Carolina. And joining me today is Kelsey Bergen, our Director of Sustainability. So Kelsey, you want to give a brief introduction of your accomplishments here at Ferguson?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Glad to be with you today. My name is Kelsey Bergen. I'm the Director of Sustainability. I've spent 3 years with Ferguson now. And prior to coming to Ferguson, I worked in the utilities sector and transportation sector. So really excited to be talking to you about sustainable products today. Christine, I think you've been with Ferguson for how long?
I've been with Ferguson for 27 years. In various roles, but have spent about the past 18 years in the showrooms, and sustainability has become very, very important to me as I've had a family over the course of those 27 years. And I really enjoy educating consumers on what the possibilities are when they are looking to be a greener home or just to really participate in environmental savings. So we are so excited to be here with you today, and we'll get started. I'm going to turn my video off for just a moment since I'm not working on dual screens today. That's a little bit of an issue for me. So we will get started here with our presentation about our sustainable living. And I think it's going just a little bit slow here, so
I'll let you know when I see it.
Okay, all right.
I see it. First slide.
Perfect. So we're going to be talking about sustainable products and some products that were introduced in 2021. Some of you might have seen them at the virtual kitchen and bath show this year. Once it got kicked into high gear there, there were some issues with that first starting. And we'll talk about really what makes products sustainable and how we can really incorporate some of our luxury products into our designs today. We've already kind of introduced ourselves, so we'll just start talking about reviewing the learning objectives of what we can do today and learning how we can incorporate luxury products and still having sustainability into your designs.
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to touch on are new kitchen, bath, and lighting products that are in this space that are innovating over time, and we're really excited to highlight with you today. And we also want to make sure everyone understands how they can plan for and incorporate sustainable products into upcoming projects, whether you're a designer or working more on the architecture side of things. We're really excited to share.
So we want to acknowledge that you may walk away with more questions, and that's okay and good. There is a chat group that Deb is helping us monitor today, and we will have a question and answer session at the end. We're always happy to hear from you, and Kelsey and I will actually post our contact information at the end of the presentation as well.
And one of the things we've learned about sustainability is that as we push things further and ask how we can integrate sustainability more and more, it does raise a lot of questions for us. So, you know, when we first started talking about sustainability, you know, back in the 70s with Earth Day, you know, recycling and waste minimization were front of mind. And now we're really seeing consumers think about the business case for sustainability and how they can incorporate it into their purchasing decisions. So we've especially seen this with millennial consumers and Gen Z consumers who they don't want just a product that for most part, you know, they're not focused necessarily on that price point. They're focused on how can they measure the energy they're using? How can they measure the amount of water that they're using? And how can they have a product that they will feel really confident about in their homes for years and years to come? And so it's a really exciting time and a really nice opportunity for us to think about how we can integrate these products and make it easy for them to choose these products. So
Right.
what we're seeing, Christine, I don't know if, yeah, there we go. On the customers want it side, in the showroom, are you seeing a lot of customers asking for sustainable products?
I think we definitely see that in the showroom environment. You know, customers want to be really educated. They want to do the right things by the environment. And so they're asking for it. And we need to be able to educate them on what is available and what will fit their budget as well. So that leads us into what is the green building client? You know, contractors are savvier about the products that save water and energy. Some are highly sophisticated in their needs, which kind of leads us back to LEED certification for those builders, and how it affects the building process in general.
Right, and that's another thing that we're hearing a lot is that LEED is coming up more often. WELL certification is another, indoor health certification that's becoming more popular. And so we definitely hear that need from our customers as well.
Right. And in certain markets, there are still rebates available based on how the home is built and how much energy it does conserve. So there are incentives for builders and homeowners alike to be more green, if you will.
Yeah, and I'm
the
imagining certain markets, you're going to hear about it a lot more because of those incentives.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we talked about the educated consumer. A lot of our millennial generation, and even going back to our baby boomer generation, they understand the importance of conservation, but they're also looking at the return on investment. So, someone might be concerned about spending $3,000 on a particular coffee machine. But when you really explain the benefits of, hey, you might not have to go to the coffee shop every day, or let's look at the price per cup over the course of a year, really helping them understand that return on investment and their initial expense can really land a sale in a luxury product that perhaps they thought they couldn't afford, but we can build a case to where they can afford it and still do great things for the environment as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think one of the things that we've often talked about, you and I, Christine, is that there may be some enduring myths here too that we have to dispel as we're talking to our customers about these products.
Absolutely. Product performance is still so very important, and it's top of mind for everyone, because if you think back when we first started water saving technology with the toilet industry, American made toilets did not necessarily perform so well. And a lot of people remember that. So we have to do a great job in really emphasizing that technology is vastly improved. We can conserve water, and technology has caught up to make a product perform at levels that we expect, so that we don't have those poor performance out there anymore when they think about energy conservation, that we can really have them a great flushing toilet or a great working shower head or a fantastic kitchen faucet that still performs the way they expect it to perform, but with less water.
Yeah, so one of the areas we wanted to highlight is that we need to prioritize sustainability in our industry beyond just the California laws and those markets where we're seeing greater regulation. And that's because water efficient plumbing and energy efficient appliances, they're helping preserve basic human resources, especially under these limited access scenarios. So when we think about climate change and the impact that it's having on our communities, we are starting to see the impacts of that, whether it's wildfires or natural disasters. And what we're finding is that most people are still taking running water for granted. And that's especially true, I think when we think about water access, we typically think about international water access and think, in the US, we're in good shape. But that's not necessarily true. More than 1.6 million Americans currently lack access to running water, bathtub or shower, or a working flush toilet. So what we are really proud of is that at Ferguson, we've signed on as Dig Deep's national partner, the first corporate partner actually, and they're the only organization in the United States working to change that water access. So now we are too. So if you'd like to learn more about Dig Deep and their efforts, please visit the Ferguson Cares website. While we move on here to more of sustainable luxury and incorporating that into product selection.
Yes, absolutely. So we want to talk about the luxury, but sustainability is so very important to our clients. And so where do we begin with luxury products that are sustainable? We want to begin to educate yourself and your clients on what's out there, and understanding the different market labels. There's so many things that tout that they're energy certified, but what does that mean and how can you verify it? There are some specific labels in our industry that denote that they have been verified by independent organizations. One of those is our WaterSense label. The WaterSense label makes it simple to find water efficient products for new homes and products that meet the EPA's criteria for efficiency and performance. They're also certified to use at least 20% less water. They save energy and they perform as well or better than regular models. Since the EPA is doing this certification, it is independent of manufacturers. So you can have faith that what you're seeing is legitimate.
And one of the things that we want to call attention to is these third-party certifications are so helpful because they standardize what you're looking at. So it's really easy to guide a consumer in the right direction because it is an apples to apples comparison across all Energy Star products, for example.
Absolutely. And so Energy Star is what you will see on a good majority of the appliance industry, as well as all appliances must have this energy guide on them as well. And the energy guide serves as a label that's kind of estimates the amount of energy that each product will use. And it provides information about whether the usage is below the average for that type of product. And it also gives the consumer yearly operating cost so they can determine if this is a good fit for them.
It's nice to think about that kind of as an ingredients label that helps you really quickly reference what your consumer would actually be saving and the energy they consume.
Right. And the next one is kind of my one of my pet concerns here. I live on the East Coast, and so dark sky is very prominent in our coastal communities because of our wildlife and our sea turtles. And Dark Sky is an approved organization that they came out a few years back and said that 30% of all lighting is wasted in outdoor lighting in the United States. So why is Dark Sky so important? Our sea turtle population, which is where I am, that hits close to my heart, but also just overall wildlife preservation, as well as stargazing. I mean, who doesn't like to look up at the night sky and still see the stars? If we can eliminate some of that light pollution, that will help those of us that wish to look at those beautiful stars. And ultimately, it reduces energy usage. When we have those caps over those lights, we still get good light output. We're still able to see our garages and the front of our homes, but we have reduced some of our energy consumption in that regard.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example of one that consumers might not be aware of previously. So it's a really great opportunity to speak to how we can incorporate more sustainable products. And I think one of the enduring myths that you mentioned to me, Christine, was that if we're moving to a more efficient light, we can't necessarily get that color we want. And are you seeing technology improve here?
Absolutely. And when you're talking to your consumers about light bulbs, there is a great lighting fact sheet. Again, it's kind of like that ingredients label that Kelsey pointed to previously with the appliances. But in lighting, it really talks about the light color, the rendering, and that's what becomes so important when we're educating our consumers, is that when LED was first introduced, lots of people remember the blue LED lights. If you remember Christmases or 5 years ago, and people started using LED lights to conserve energy, but they didn't really like the light output because it turned everything a little blue. Again, technology has caught up. We have what we call color rendering in our light bulbs and in our fixtures, and we really talk about what matches up with what consumers are used to seeing, those warmer tones from a regular incandescent bulb. How do they get that in an LED bulb? So these charts kind of show you, hey, a warm white is a 2700 Kelvin LED bulb. It doesn't have to be that 6500, which kind of lends itself on that bluer spectrum of scale. So these are important things to educate your consumers about as well, that, hey, there is an alternative in an energy saving bulb. You don't always have to use that incandescent. And then there are those unsuspecting green products. And this is where Kelsey has a little information for us here for products that folks don't often think about.
Yeah, so I think it's really natural for us to think about products that boast a really big label on energy savings. But induction cooking is one of these technologies that I think we don't often think about as a sustainable technology. And so what I really wanted to share here is that the induction cooking is a stealth way to incorporate sustainability into your kitchen designs. It is, Christine, just as effective as some other methods?
Absolutely. You know, gas is still a preferred method for many of home chefs, if you will, but induction is about 84% more efficient than our typical electric cooking. And the hang up with some consumers is that, oh, I've heard there are special pots that are required. I heard it's so much more expensive. And that's not necessarily true. Induction does rely on magnetic technology to heat the cookware, which uses far less electricity. But the pots and pans just need to contain enough iron to form a magnetic field. So a lot of people don't realize they already have this cookware in their homes, and they can use their standard cookware, but it does have to be able to hold a little bit of a magnetic force. So if they take a home magnet and put it on their pot, they can use it in the induction cooking. The second time is, or the second phase that we want to go through here is getting the most out of water delivery in your home as well. And this is where a lot of our newer showering products come on the market. There's some eco-friendly options that ensure that our pressure and performance in the shower are equal to what we would expect on our old shower heads that were producing, 5 gallons per minute per se, which is not the law in California anymore. We have to go down to about 1.8. So manufacturers have really caught up, and some are introducing air infused shower heads where it kind of takes that air and mixes it with water to give you the feel of a heavier spray. It delivers those air enriched drops that are fuller, lighter, and softer, and really gives you that invigorating spray with less water, believe it or not. Some of these products are actually rated at 1.5 gallons per minute.
Wow.
So that is crazy when we used to have a 2.5 and a 3.5 shower head, if you think about it. The other one is our hand showers. And they, again, are multifunctional. They can deliver different sprays. A lot of them use some water induction technology as well. And they can do different patterns, different sprays of all kinds with a more invigorating spray, and really still use 1.8 gallons per minute. How crazy.
That's amazing.
It is so amazing. The other one is the 2-in-1 shower column. This has an integral diverter on it with different manufacturers where you can have independent functions, have a really clean design, and check out what all the spray patterns are about, but really clean design in the 2-in-1 shower columns as well. And last but not least here is our steam shower. Lots of consumers don't believe that they can afford a steam shower, but if you ever think about a visit to a resort or to a spa, sometimes we can work it in with their budgets and have your own personal spa at your home. There are so many benefits to steam out there. but they can combine steam with their normal showering routine, and they can have all the experience of a spa just lounging in the comfort of their own shower in their own space in their own home. They can have, LED lights, they can have different aromas, but steam showering is one that, hey, it can really, really have health benefits as well as energy benefits as well. So maybe that's something that you want to explore with your clients.
Yeah, and Christine, the digital showering is the one that I find so interesting because we're definitely seeing homeowners wanting the ability to conserve water. So it's so cool to think about design that actually lets you choose the perfect water temperature before you even step inside, and you can pause the flow of water whenever you want.
Absolutely.
So cool to think about how far that technology has come. Are you hearing a lot of consumers asking for this across different age ranges?
Oh, I think every age range is very intrigued by digital showering, especially since you can use a smartphone as well as a wall control to turn different manufacturers on. So this is something that appeals to a wide variety of consumers here, as well as you can even incorporate that fantastic steam unit that we just talked about into the digital showering experience. So they can control this all in the palm of their hand if they so choose. So if they're coming in from a day of yard work and they want to turn on their steam unit or get their shower ready, they can have a precise control that says turn the shower on at this time and what functionality they wish to turn on as well, so that their shower is ready and they can hop in and hop out. They can even set timers for some of those children that might like to shower a little bit longer than others. So there are huge benefits to some of the digital showering that is out there on the market these days.
That's great.
Absolutely. So we've explored some of the new technology, and we'll continue to explore the new kitchen and bath and lighting products in the space. This year at KBIS, we saw a lot of sustainability products as a priority with some of our manufacturers and the eco-friendly aspects. Highlights from KBIS do include some of the carbon neutral collections. Kelsey, would you like to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, I would. This is probably one of, as a sustainability practitioner, I think this is one of the exciting developments that's really coming more into mainstream now. So we're starting to see vendors releasing carbon neutral collections that offset the emissions of the product that they're producing. So it's a really cool way to help pair your consumer with a more sustainable product. And I'm expecting more and more of these announcements to come out this month of April as Earth Day is coming up. So we expect that renewable energy and reused materials, upcycled materials, will be featured more prominently in these announcements coming forward.
Right. And to go along that, they're also adding more Energy Star options, and to even go back and talk about the smart phone capabilities of products. Appliances have really come into that market as well. There are laundry out there now that you can start and stop with your smartphone. It is voice activated as well as ovens. We can preheat an oven very quickly to save us time. So when we're at the store, we can go ahead and have our oven preheated and ready for us as soon as we're in there. So we can have some time savings as well. And they are still Energy Star certified.
And one of the interesting examples that you had mentioned to me, Christine, was like even cameras inside of refrigerators now. So if you're at the store, and you're like, oh, I forgot if I need coffee creamer or, one of those items, you don't have to make that extra trip because you can actually use the technology that's paired.
That is correct, Kelsey. There are different manufacturers where we can see the insides of our refrigerators now. So when we're at the store, we can reduce that carbon footprint by not making multiple trips to the store. We can also create a list straight from our refrigerators sometimes. So the kids can be telling mom or dad that we need milk or we need eggs, and it can send that note right to your smartphone so that when you're making the trip home from work or you're out at the store already, you can go ahead and pick up what else the family needs. So some really cool innovations. Also in the kitchen faucet industry, they've got precise fill faucets now where you can talk to your Google or your Amazon Alexa and say, fill my pitcher, and they will know what that means. Or you can say an exact amount, and that faucet will give you that exact amount in your pitcher. So that is some great technology that's come forth as well as touch technology is out there as well on many different faucets. When you think about energy consumption or energy use, people don't always think that the touch activated is part of that, but it can. Instead of leaving a faucet running while you're cleaning up the chicken or everything, you can bump it with your elbow. You don't have to touch it with your chicken hand. You can just bump it with your elbow, so you're not leaving that water running. That's pretty cool technology, if you ask me. So
Yeah,
when you're
especially
looking at
with
yeah,
with COVID, I can't help but think that you're hearing more demand for that too.
absolutely, absolutely. Hands-free faucets, soap dispensers, everything has become in such high demand due to COVID that we have seen a surge in those product sales.
And one of the other things that I really love about these products, gets me really excited, is just thinking about how much data a consumer can now have on, how much they're running their HVAC system at home through a smart thermostat. Understanding what their water usage looks like. Instead of just that one time a month when you're thinking about your water bill or your electricity bill, you really have the tools now that you can take a more informed look on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important. And it's up to us to kind of educate our consumers that we can do that. And then sometimes you'll see that aha moment. And one of my favorite aha moments is to talk about bidets and smart toilets. Because, as Kelsey mentioned, COVID really brought some things to the forefront for us. And bidets were one. If you think back to April and May of last year and the immense toilet paper supply shortage that we all suffered through in the United States, bidets took on a whole different meaning for a lot of people. In the US market, bidets were seen more as that luxury item or a medical need. When COVID hit, they were seen more as a necessity because people didn't want to wait in line to buy their toilet paper. So bidets can range anywhere from $100 up to $1,200, but they don't have to be a separate fixture like many manufacturers used to provide. People have gone to Europe and Japan and seen that bidet seats can be incorporated into an existing toilet, and really all that you need is an electrical outlet. And some don't require an electrical outlet. If you don't prefer the heated water or the heated seat that some of them offer, you don't have to have that electrical outlet, but you can get that bidet and really work on saving water. Americans use the most toilet paper in the world, believe it or not. Kelsey, I think you have a few more statistics on that if you'd like to share them.
Yeah, we found that people use at least 57 sheets of toilet paper per day, which adds up to 27 rolls per person annually. And that roughly equates to 385 trees in a lifetime. So having the ability to incorporate that bidet technology has other sustainability benefits as well.
Absolutely. I mean, any minimal increase in water usage at the bidet's water source is really offset by the amount of water used in toilet paper manufacturing. So when you kind of share those results, that becomes that aha moment as well. So how do you understand for and incorporate sustainable products? There's so many ways to introduce sustainable living into the home that you don't have to sacrifice style and performance. So really, we want to promote a holistic approach that begins with energy efficiency and includes health, well-being, aesthetics, and even social engagement.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And building to a higher standard, probably requires a little bit more care and some more conversations with your customer. But I think with these new technologies, you may find them asking you about it proactively. But there are some really surprising results as well. So Christine, you've mentioned that when customers come in, you really work with them to identify what's important to them as a homeowner. So
Absolutely.
how do you talk with them to see what they care about?
Right. And I think as a design community in general, we want to meet our customers' needs. So we really need to get at the crux of what do they want? How do they want their showers to operate? How do they want their kitchens to operate? And then start that education process with them. And it's not that you're sneaking in those products, but you're really talking about the benefits. Whereas some consumers, they just want the best of the best in their minds. They have that set, and they really don't understand that this is a energy saving product or a water conservation product. They want it to function. And so really helping educate our consumers about the functionality, like we talked about the air induced shower heads, or how the toilet performs better now with less water, can really make a difference in their overall design, and prove that, hey, there are not just one toilet out there anymore. There are thousands of different designs that still incorporate those energy savings. And that goes across the board with our appliances, with our lighting, that there are so many options now that we didn't even have 5, 10 years ago. And it's really about helping educate our consumers and our customers about those new technologies and those new products.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time. And so one of the areas that you may find yourself wading into on projects is, if it's an existing homeowner, it's not new construction, and they have some appliances in place when you get there that you might be looking to upgrade. If they are a product that could have a second life, it's really beneficial to also think about the waste footprint of that product and pair them maybe with a local Habitat for Humanity restore, where it can go and be used by another consumer instead of just ending up in the landfill right away, or hopefully being recycled on the appliance side. But the other thing that I think we can really help consumers with is, Christine talked about having that conversation about the ROI and helping them understand that, yes, they can afford this luxury product. I think back to that coffee maker example. And so if these are products that they're going to have in their home for 10 years or longer, I think it's really important to help them understand the life cycle of the product and make sure that they're maintaining it so that it will give them that full useful life that they're expecting. So
Absolutely.
manufacturers' cleaning instructions and warranties are so important, right, Christine?
Absolutely. You do want to educate. Again, I say that word quite frequently when we talk about the sustainable products, and really talking about how we do need to maintain. Certain people want ice machines in their homes, and that's fantastic. There is a maintenance that has to go along with certain products, and you want to make sure your customers do understand that, so that they can make those products last for the lifetime that they were expected to last. So paying attention to those is vastly important as well. So as we go through the rest of our presentation, we wanted to share a few final thoughts with you about manufacturers are recognizing the importance of green kitchen and baths, and they're recognizing that consumers are starting to take interest in that. Again, they are continually updating their technologies, coming out with newer, more efficient appliances, more voice activated technology. But you might have those clients who are like, oh, well, voice activated technology, is that here to stay? Does it cause service issues? Some of the greatest things about those voice activated technologies are that manufacturers can remotely come into an appliance to diagnose it, thus saving a trip to a customer's home, reducing a carbon footprint. But also what's become vastly important to manufacturers, especially during this past year, has been sourcing. How are products sourced? And I know that's near and dear to your heart, Kelsey.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about, carbon neutral products. One of the really cool areas that we're starting to see some manufacturers offer are declare labels. And so it'll actually give an ingredients label for the product, everything that's included in it, and where it originated from. So it's really nice to help your customers be able to share the story of how that appliance got to them. Or how that kitchen sink got to them. So it's really cool to think about the story behind the products now that consumers are looking for, and think about how we can incorporate that. And so I think one of the other things that I'm also seeing that I should have mentioned earlier is just that a lot of manufacturers are setting their own carbon and waste goals because consumers are interested in what those manufacturers are doing too. So that's really exciting to see because that corporate responsibility has a huge impact.
Absolutely. And I think that's another important component of educating the consumers as well, is talking about those manufacturers and how they do source products and how they are becoming environmentally responsible, which they weren't held to such high standards in the past, but now they're holding themselves accountable, which is cool to see in our marketplace as well. So in closing, we really hope that we help you understand how you can plan for and incorporate some sustainable products into your upcoming projects, and really explore all the new products that were being introduced. They are continually, like I said, coming out with new products in every category that really do meet energy standards and surpass some of the US energy standards as well. Some of our European counterparts and our Asian counterparts have really been at the forefront of conserving energy much more before the US was. So we have taken some of that technology into our manufacturing here and really came out with some cool products, even in like vanity lines, things of that nature, where Kelsey talked about how products are sourced. We're really starting to see that come to fruition, that we're not chopping down a rainforest anymore, but a person is really proud of where they have sourced their vanity from. So that becomes really, really important to our consumers, and we can make it important to them. So don't be afraid to have those conversations, but also tell them that they can get exactly what they want and still be a good consumer of energy, if you will.
That's a great point. So to review what we covered, we want to make sure that from a luxury product perspective, you feel empowered to incorporate sustainability into your designs, because this is the most impactful thing that you can do. It will dwarf the footprint that you as an individual consumer have. So if you're able to help your customers in this way, I think you'll be able to have a really large impact over the course of your career.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are done with our presentation today. We want to thank everybody for attending. I see there are some questions that I can't see on my screen, so hopefully, Deb, you can help us moderate. Here is my contact information along with Kelsey's. If you feel free to reach out to either one of us to ask any questions or to get more details on specifics that we spoke about today, we are happy to share that with you.
Okay, ladies. Well, thank you so much. This has been a great presentation. We got lots of questions that have come in, so I'm going to jump right in, and either one of you are welcome to answer. And Christine, I just wanted to mention that your camera is off, so I don't know if you want to put it on at this point.
Turning it right back on right now.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to dive right in, ladies. So here we go. So Samantha is a student in a sustainable interior designing program. She says, how important is sustainability overall in the interior designing profession?
Christine, I'm thinking that's probably you.
Yeah, so I see it quite a bit with the designers in my markets. Again, I'm on the East Coast, but when I talk to my counterparts, it is becoming increasingly important across the United States, especially in our hot markets of California, which tends to lead the way in sustainability for us and kind of set that standard across the United States. Again, I think it comes back to the design community to make it a priority as well as our local showrooms in the plumbing and lighting industry to kind of really, again, I'll say the word educate one more time, consumers about how it can become important to them.
Great. So let's see. So someone's asking, how savvy are consumers about LEED in your opinion?
Depends on the market. I think in the Carolinas in particular, there are lots of rebates in my markets here. Florida had a few rebates. California does have some. They had some rebates beginning, but then they kind of just made it law. So I think with LEED certification, it takes a specific type of builder to be very educated, and then they promote that. And then they promote that within the green communities in different states as well. So I really think it depends on the state, but we see it a lot up and down the East Coast and then the West Coast as well. So I think it's slowly but surely coming into the middle of the United States, if you will.
And Kelsey, did you have something that you wanted to comment on?
Yeah, so we're seeing it a lot from customers in the Colorado, New York regions, and a lot of states are setting minimum requirements for like universities, for example. So I think sometimes, it has to trickle into the community a little bit to get that greater awareness. And then once it's there, consumers seem to be taking an interest.
Okay, great. Good to know. Jonathan, he says, seems like a lot of smart products allows a lot of measuring information and feedback to the consumer, but do consumers actually really buy into that? And he has a couple more questions, but I don't know if you want me to read them all or if we want to just handle that one and then I'll do the next.
Sure. I mean,
okay.
I can't speak to what consumers are doing. I really think they like the availability of the information. So that they can see at certain times of the year. Do you have people checking it every day? Probably not, but the fact that it's there is a benefit. And if they wanted to see it, they can check in, or at their next dinner party that they might be able to host after the COVID restrictions are eased in some states. It's a cool factor to show all their friends, and then it gets their friends engaged. So it opens a conversation that maybe we weren't having in the past.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. What we're seeing is, for example, if it's a smart thermostat, they're trying to engage with the customer on social norming too, because they want to make sure that their scope 3 emissions, which are attributed to customer use, are minimized. So from a design perspective, one example is a company that will actually send you an email and let you know how many green leaves you had at the end of the month. So that's one example, but we're seeing similar touch points on things like faucets. Too.
Okay. And so the second part of Jonathan's question, he's saying, when is too much information unnecessary and what's the balance in not trying to make a product too tech gimmicky?
I think that's a balance that a lot of manufacturers are still trying to figure out, Jonathan. But to Kelsey's point, I think it's nice if they just have a synopsis, that they're not trying to figure out all that information. And that's where a lot of manufacturers are coming in to say, hey, here's a real quick snapshot on your water usage last month, or you can set it to tell you every week or by the month. That the manufacturers have realized that less is more, but they can still give you that information just in a really quick snapshot.
Right, because no one wants something that's harder to use.
Right.
Right. Like we don't want to add to the burdens that anyone's already facing. So I think there's a nice balance between that education piece that Christine talks so much about and just ease of use too, right. Because the easier it is to use, the more likely they are.
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to jump back for a moment here. We had a couple more questions in the chat talking about leads. So Pablo is asking, regarding the lead rating system, how is the commissioning handled and what about the remodeling areas?
Yeah, so there's a few different types of LEED certification available. Some are for new construction, some are for core and shell. So it really depends on the project that you're targeting. Some are for commercial projects, some are for residential. So I would recommend going to the US Green Building Council website and learning a little bit more about their checklists for these projects. And lead professionals are certainly really knowledgeable in this area and could help advise.
Okay, and then just to kind of continue on that theme there, Doris is asking, are there any rebates that would be available in, let's say, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, and how does this person find out? How do you find out?
Usually they're on the EPA's website or a state website. A lot of municipalities also have local rebates, and it depends on maybe their water usage or their energy usage. I know even in the state of Virginia, like different municipalities have different rebates. So you will have to get out there and do a little bit of research. However, they usually promote them on their individual websites as well. And on a national level, there are some national rebates that are out there posted on the EPA's website as well.
Good information. Thank you, ladies. So I'm going to keep rolling. We've got lots of people asking questions. Once you open the floodgates, you know how that goes.
That's great. That's fantastic.
All right. So is there a trade-off between performance and sustainability, and where is the tipping point?
Well, I think early on, yes, there was a definitive performance or lack thereof with some sustainable products. I think in the past 15 years, manufacturers have really realized the US mandated a water decrease, especially in the toilet industry. Now they've come across and mandated that in our faucet industry as well, with shower heads and with sink faucets. So manufacturers have been forced to perform better because consumers demanded it. So again, I hearken it back to those toilets of 25 years ago when the US first made them 1.6 gallons flush, that there were some horrible ones out there, to be quite honest. But manufacturers quickly realized that they were losing market share to another company. And so they revamped. They went back to the drawing board and they said, this has to work or else they wouldn't be in business any longer. So today's world, I think that is at the forefront. The technology is there, but it must perform well. And manufacturers have really taken that call to action quite phenomenally, if you will.
Okay, then Christine, your namesake, she's asking she has some clients and she's wondering what beautiful modern and aesthetic novelties can be installed in the kitchen for compost, like inside the room, and how would that work and what is needed?
Yeah, so there's a great one out there right now that can go in the countertop. That is a compostable container that can fit right into their countertop. It's lined with charcoal and you can put the lid on it so that they can compost right there in their kitchen on their countertops, have all their scraps go in there and still have a very clean look and design and not worry about odor or anything of that nature. And I think at this point, can I mention vendors, Deb?
You can, yes, that's fine, because
Yes.
people often want to know.
That compostable mechanism is offered by Blanco.
Okay, great.
And you have a beautiful
Go ahead.
garden.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. So someone is asking you, you mentioned earlier on about carbon neutral and how do companies confirm their product really is carbon neutral? And then you also talked about carbon neutral collections. So if you can talk about how companies confirm carbon neutral and if you can expand on the carbon neutral collections you talked about.
Sure. So I'm happy to take that one,
Yep.
Christine, if you'd like. So one of the ones I'm most excited about is, because we can mention vendors, Toto has worked on accrediting their carbon neutral line. So they actually go through a verification process in order to claim that it's a carbon neutral product. And then they offset their shipping as well. So for the product to actually get from Toto to the customer, that's offset as well. So it's a really exciting line. I'd encourage you to check out. And yeah, I'm seeing more of that though from a variety of vendors.
And a lot of times they'll use third parties so that we know it's legitimate, even through different, all manufacturers go through certain parties for third party certification, but they will use an independent judge of that so that we can maintain that they are carbon neutral.
So it sounds like it's quite the process to go through then.
It is expensive on the front side and then for the initial uptake. But if you have a manufacturer that is concerned about it, it certainly does add to the benefit of their product line.
Great. Thank you, ladies. Okay. Bianca's asking about the digital showering that you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, how exactly does it help with saving water? She said, you mentioned a timer to not lose track of time. What other specific features are there for sustainable use of water?
So most of those digital showerings, and there's quite a few offered by several different manufacturers, you can have user presets on there. So if you only want to use one particular component in a shower, you can do that. In certain states, you can't use multiple components in a shower system. Here on the East Coast, you can, but it has to be less than like 7 gallons per minute. And you can really set up those digital controls to do that. And so most of those products that are in those showers are also 1.8 gallons per minute now versus our old 2.5 gallons per minute.
Okay, boy, I'm impressed with you guys. You have got numbers there right at your fingertips. Let's see here. So someone is asking about this gets into, I guess, security issues, but how dangerous are voice activated fixtures that also listen when it comes to privacy? It's probably a security question, but do you know if you get that kind of question from consumers?
Sometimes I do get those questions, but I also kind of go back. That device is in your home already for the most part. So if you want to partake in that, you can. And there are always going to be, I think, security issues that come along with that. But Google and Amazon have really worked hard to prevent those. And those are our two most common voice activated devices that are used in homes now.
Okay. And so someone's asking the simple question, what do you both consider luxury? Because that's in the topic of your title today.
Yeah, I think for me, luxury is defined by my client's needs. You know, my luxury product might not be the same as Kelsey's luxury product. For me, it's a clean design, one that's beautiful to me. I tend to like the blacks that are being introduced and the mixed golds now, and really helping people understand how that fits into their design. So my idea of luxury could be vastly even different from my clients, but helping my client get to what they consider their luxury product. You know, I love a great working shower. That's what I love, and a great steam bath. My client might like that cup of coffee every day. So I think it's really understanding what becomes important to your client and fitting that luxury to their standards.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I would have to agree with Christine. I think it's a personal definition for everyone, but I often think of it as something that you don't quite think you can invest in. It's
Yeah,
just out of reach sometimes.
great point. Great point,
But
Kelsey.
when it's, again, when you're doing that analysis and thinking about, am I buying a cup of coffee every day, or do I want to enjoy that at home? It's helping them figure out what they can add into their lives for ease and simplicity.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I think you're right. I think it comes down to preference, doesn't it? But it also comes down to dollars and cents.
Yes, those are
Yes.
very important.
All right. So let's see. We're going to keep going here. Question here. How come the bidet producers are not making smaller size bidets? She says, I have a shorter, small, I don't know if it's a man or woman, but I have a shorter, small commode and the shape is slightly more U-shaped in the front than a standard elongated seat. So I have been unable to find a bidet that fits properly. Do either of you have any thoughts on that?
Um, I don't, but can take that question and come back to you on it, because you're right. A lot of the bidet seats are made for the traditional round front or elongated toilets in the US. So maybe we want to look at the brand of that particular unit that you have and see if we can reach out to that manufacturer, or a particular manufacturer that just manufactures bidet seats, that doesn't maybe have a complete line of china and everything, that we can find one that works for you.
Okay. Let's see. So Holly is asking, do you feel natural stone or man-made material is more sustainable for countertop or tile in kitchen and bath design?
Kelsey, would you like to take that one?
Yeah. I think it depends a lot on how it's sourced and manufactured. So I'd love to be able to say, like, blanket statement, this is better. But unfortunately, I think it does actually look at where it's sourced from to make that determination. So I do think the most sustainable product is one that your customer is going to like for a long time, and not something that they're going to feel like they have to update because they're unhappy with it. So I think it's matching that customer preference with a material that you can really know where it's sourced from.
Okay.
Sorry, it wasn't a yes or no.
No. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's
Okay.
not cut and dry answers, right? So here's one. How much of a priority is it to educate representatives of showrooms like Ferguson's on sustainability?
For me, guys, it's very important. I want all of my showroom associates to understand the importance of natural resources and what our manufacturers are doing in that regard, so that they can educate their consumers. It can't just come from me, it has to come from a staff of people. And so I hope that our competitors alike are really taking that to heart as well, and educating their associates, so that we can bring what the manufacturers are doing to the forefront for consumers.
Okay. So then another kind of similar question. do companies like yours offer recycle of certain products that can exist in a previous space that is, someone wants to renovate?
Yeah, so we
Yeah, go ahead, Kelsey.
Yeah, a lot of our branches will help recycle products at end of life. So, for example, appliances. If you're sourcing your products from us, most of our branches will take back and recycle your products. We have found some really innovative uses for products. One example that I know of locally here in Virginia, there were a bunch of porcelain toilets that were being removed for renovation. They were actually crushed and turned into a substrate for oysters with the Chesapeake Bay. So we're seeing some really innovative ways to reduce waste. I'm not saying that we do that at every branch, but it's one really cool example of a branch thinking about how they can minimize their waste impact.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a great example. I love that example. So let's see. Marty says, I'm a kitchen and bath designer, and in the past, we've experienced issues with touch faucets that that simply reaching in front of a faucet will interfere with a faucet stream, and that sometimes it's difficult to turn off. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. So that's a sensor activated faucet a lot, and there are two different types on the market. So there's a True Touch, which is offered by Delta and Brizo, and then there's a sensor faucet. And Moen offered it originally. Kohler came on board with it a little bit later in the year that year, and Moen changed because Moen had a sensor that detected dark colors, and so whenever you were walking in front of it, it was turning on and off. They have since revamped that technology, so it works much like the airport faucets, if you will. You kind of have to get closer to it to really turn that faucet on. So I think that's been some improvements that they've made just in the past year.
Oh, okay. So it's only been a year roughly.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know. Let's see here. When we were talking about LEED earlier and the potential savings, someone commented here about sometimes federal tax savings can be done for installing energy savings. Do you ladies think that's true?
I definitely know it's true with solar panels. With some of the plumbing and lighting, I'm not as familiar with that, but I do know there's some huge energy rebates out there for solar and for windows as well.
Yeah. So the investment tax credit is what Christine's referring to there. I do expect that given some of the legislation that we're seeing, that we could see more incentives for energy efficiency products at the federal level.
That's good. That's a good thing for people to be able to tell their clients, right?
Absolutely.
So our student Samantha, she's asking, what cities do you think an interior designer would perform the best in?
I think it's dependent on you as well, because I think you can be in one of the hottest cities in the world, but if you don't have the will to succeed, then you won't. But some of the hotbeds are, of course, our larger cities, New York City in particular, Atlanta, Georgia. But as we see people start to move out of New York City, you're starting to see some suburbs pop up. Raleigh, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I am. But even in Texas, Austin, Texas has become a great design community. Everyone thinks of Dallas, but Austin is a secondary city. That's a very large city. So I think it's there are niches everywhere in different states.
Great answer. Thank you. So Pablo was talking earlier about LEED, and he is a LEED AP. And he's saying that he is seeing LEED for homes is down a bit. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think that it's an interesting, definitely an interesting call out from an LEED AP on the ground. I was experiencing that on the commercial side. We were seeing that being down a little bit as commercial construction has slowed a little bit. But my thought on that would just be that because there is such a demand for new homes now, I wouldn't expect that to endure. I would hope that would rebound.
Okay. That's good. So then we're going to go back to this some bidet conversation here. So Doris is asking, besides the bidet seats, she mentions Toto, do they also make individual bidets? Like she's looking for who makes toilets and matching American bidet with spray as well as bidet seat on their toilets. So that's a bit of a interesting question.
Yeah, so historically in the US market, they were always separate bidets. So Kohler, American Standard, Duravit's a German company, but they still have bidets as well. Those kind of waned in popularity because people were uncomfortable kind of moving fixtures, if you will. So the bidet seat really took off. Toto did have the first introduction of that with their Neo-Rest toilet and incorporated a bidet into it. Other manufacturers soon followed. So Kohler has their own, American Standard has their own, lots of other manufacturers do as well. And then there are also just those companies that produce bidet seats that can go on any elongated or round front toilet like we spoke about. So I think when you look at the major China manufacturers, that's where you'll find those separate bidets. And then, but also with that expense, you have that expense of a separate faucet that has to go on that bidet as well. So that kind of makes it a little bit more price prohibitive for some clients versus a bidet seat that incorporates right into your toilet.
Yeah, I guess that goes back to your market again, doesn't it? And
It
yeah.
sure does.
Yeah. So I know we're rounding the top of the hour here. I have one more question from Michelle. And she says, lots of clients love marble in their shower and on kitchen countertops. Would you recommend marble given that it's porous, or what do you think is a better option?
I know customers do love marble. I do think that some of our more man-made substances can have the look of the marble without being that porous surface. And a lot of times, especially in our kitchens, we've pulled away from that marble in our kitchens because of the staining aspects, where it kind of just soaks up that water. And then you have those nice water stains that not all consumers care for. So I look at more man-made substances that give us that look of that Carrera and that we can incorporate into the design as well.
Okay. You know what? I apologize. I saw one or two more questions come in here about bidets. So do you have another moment or two, ladies?
Sure.
Great. So Anna is asking, do you recommend toilets that have an all-in-one, like a bidet and toilet together?
I think it depends on the consumer space. A lot of times there's not enough space to have two independent fixtures in the toilet area, if you will. So that's where we get into incorporating that bidet within the toilet. It really conserves that space, and consumers seem to like it.
Okay. And then Jennifer's asking, does a bidet seat warm the water? She said toilet water supplies are tapped to cold water. So how comfortable is a bidet seat? I'm thinking a cold blast is not a good thing.
I would agree with you. That would be my definition of luxury, is the heated water. And that's where we kind of talked about having that electrical outlet by the toilet. That might be an extra expense that some consumers need. But that electrical outlet allows that bidet seat to have a small reservoir where they heat the water. And bidets don't take a lot of water. The sprays don't take a lot of water, so they can have that electrical outlet right there. They're still tapping into that water supply, but that small reservoir will heat the water for you. And you can also have a heated seat as well, Jennifer, which is really a luxury.
That is great. I want one.
We all do.
Well, ladies, this is great. I believe it or not, we've come to the end of our questions, and I know appreciate that you've spent so much time with us today. And I want to thank both you, Christine and Kelsey, for all this great information. You really shared a lot of wonderful information today. And again, to thank Gebrit for their generous sponsorship for today's session. Ladies, again, thank you. Thank you, everyone in the audience. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys hosting us. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Our pleasure, Debbie. Our pleasure.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.